Well, and also
I totally agree.
Something you said in the beginning about individualism, like, do you prefer sociocentric countries? Do you not love America? And
what do you mean sociocentric?
Like countries where, like, you're like, oh, part of the problem with feminism is so focused on the self. Well, I think that is one of the cornerstones of like Western civilization, is instead of being
it's a very liberal view of Western civilization.
Yeah, which I think is what makes Western civilization so wonderful. Like, we are one of the only, I think we are like the only one founded on individualistic rights, like principles that
I don't think we really are founded that way. I think that's what people say we were founded on now. But you hear a phrase like liberal democracy. That's the popular way to describe our country now. That phrase appears basically nowhere in the English language until the 30s. Then it jumps a little bit in the 40s. It really doesn't take off in English literature until the 80s. America, the Founding Fathers didn't think of us as a liberal democracy. They were influenced by some Enlightenment thinkers, John Locke and Montesquieu say, but they were also influenced by the classical tradition. And the classical tradition is one of the common good, not in the communist sense of that. But again, they thought the common good was best pursued by having individual rights instead of, like, that's one of the reasons we founded ourselves on a separation of church and state. You have the right. We were not founded on a separation of church and state.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into that. I think
sure. It's incidental to this point, but it appears in no founding document. There's one errant letter from Thomas Jefferson to a friend that mentions the phrase, and the Treaty of Tripoli makes some little knock on Christianity to appease the Muslim pirates who were capturing our sailors. But when the First Amendment established no church at the national level, the reason for that is not that there was a firm separation of church and state. It's because there were already established churches at the state level in many states that persisted for decades after the Constitution.
The only reference to God in the whole thing is that you can't have a test for political office. They purposely left it out. You're saying that they didn't need to found this state.
They refer to religion explicitly, and they say we won't have a church at the national level because we have churches established at the state level.
It says that? Where does it say that in the Constitution, that we're only doing this because we have churches?
Not only doing that, but we can see it in history and in the ratification debates. That's why in a number of states for decades after the ratification, you had established churches. And this changes through 19th century jurisprudence, unfortunately, but that has nothing to do, obviously, with the founding of the country. Furthermore, you have in the national anthem, which also comes from the 19th century, the notion that this be our motto and God is our trust, which is from a forgotten verse of the Star-Spangled Banner. You also have it in our money. You also have it in the benedictions and the invocations of the Continental Congress and the Constitutional Convention. So you also have it in the speeches of George Washington. And so, John Adams says that the American government will be based on the Christian morality. John Jay, first Chief Justice of the United States, says the same thing. He goes even further.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a bunch of quotes I can pull out from the other side. You can.
There aren't really.
Franklin. Yeah,
there aren't. There's one from Thomas Jefferson.
God took the Bible and cut out every reference to the supernatural and kept the rest for wisdom.
Thomas Jefferson did make a commentary on the Bible and his views were a little odd, I grant you, but I've already granted to you that in a private letter, Thomas Jefferson advocated for a separation of church and state.
And our Constitution does, right? There's there's a separation of church and state.
Where?
You have
the First Amendment.
Where do you see?
Congress shall make no, I mean, I can pull it up, we can read it word for word,
right.
But I mean, like, it is there. We didn't just all
Let's just read it.
This. Yeah,
listen, I didn't go to law school, so.
Okay.
While she looks that up, one of the other questions I wanted to get into.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise thereof.
Right. So now where do you see a separation of church and state there?
Well, when you say Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, that is that separation.
Right. And so what is the Congress?
The federal government, is that what you're saying? So you're saying
it's the lawmaking body for the federal government, right?
Yes, but if
before the incorporation doctrine,
if the state of California starts to be like, actually, in all our schools, we're going to start enforcing Christian ideology in our public schools, that would be unconstitutional under this First Amendment.
In fact, that was the way that basically all schools operated in the country until the middle of the 20th century.
Until the Supreme Court said that you can't have prayer
in schools and you can't teach the Bible.
Because of the First Amendment.
Well, no, the middle step was the incorporation of the Bill of Rights to the
okay,
states,
sure, but that's been incorporated unless you don't want that part.
Right, but you're just saying the country was founded on the separation of church and state. I'm saying that wasn't even brought up as a matter of jurisprudence until many decades later. And then it wasn't enforced in schools until a century after that.
Yeah, because no rights were, right? That's what the incorporation.
No, I think
I guess
there
I'm
were
just confused.
rights.
Do you believe the Bill of Rights is like a founding document or not?
The Bill of Rights is a list of 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution.
Do you believe it is a founding document when it comes to, like, basically the United States as a whole?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, to me, I don't understand why the conversation is continuing, because if you believe the Bill of Rights is integral to the founding of this nation, and the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, states that no religion shall be.
You can.
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding what that phrase meant to the people who wrote it and the people who lived under that government.
It just seems to me, where would the misunderstanding be?
I think you're misunderstanding that the Bill of Rights did not apply to the states at the time, and the lack of an establishment of a church at the national level does not imply that there cannot be an establishment of a church at the state level, which we know for a fact there was at the time of ratification.
I guess I am a little bit confused, because I don't understand if the Bill of Rights is part of the federal basically legislator, right? It's part of the federal law.
But we have a federal system.
But the whole point of creating the Constitution, and according to the Federalist Papers as well, is that, oh no, we need some like overarching law that, goes throughout the nation, so that way that we can be a united nation.
Not exactly. So federalism, right, refers to the principle of subsidiarity, to the view that there would be different levels of government, frankly, all the way down to the individual, right, and the family and the community and the state and the national government. And so certain powers and rights were reserved to the federal government, but they were relatively small at the ratification of the Constitution. And then many, many rights and laws and powers were reserved to the states, and then some were reserved to the people.
So do you think it's bad that the First Amendment now applies to all the states?
Let's try to keep it a little more focused on this.